Hey Pinkley, Dumbo is what? How is it moving when it's turned off?
Circus,
It's DreamWorks!
Afro
So, in the spooky spirit of October, I decided to touch upon the stories of ghosts at the Disney parks. So, let's start off with the prime question here. Do I believe in ghosts? The answer is yes, I do, because I have had my own experiences in life. If I never had those experiences, I would probably say no, I don't believe in them. Simple as that. But whether you believe in them or not, I still feel it's something fun everyone loves to hear about. So here in this video today, I'm going to cover my own stories that I have while being a cast member at Disney, some stories my friends have told me, and some classic ghost stories along with Disney legends. Are they true? Let's find out together, shall we? When I did my first Disney college program, I worked out on Main Street, USA at the huge store known as the Emporium on Main Street, West Side. If you want to hear about my college program there, go ahead and click that link above. Anyway, one of my absolute favorite positions was baby care. Now, if you don't know what baby care is, in a nutshell, it's just a place where mommies bring their babies to change them, get a break from the Florida sun, or nurse them. The one night I was able to close baby care, I was cleaning up the place, and I couldn't help but feel spooked, which was weird because I always felt comfortable before. But I just felt, it was 2 in the morning, it was completely silent, I was all alone, probably just feeling a little spooked. I shrugged and went about my closing duties. As I finished, all I had to do was wait for my coordinators to come lock up the doors and walk me back to the Emporium. The knock came, I sneaked around the corner to make sure it wasn't an angry parent trying to come in when we were closed. Let me in! I know you're in there! Ugh. They were probably more scary than any ghost we had in Disney for sure. But anyway, I looked and saw no one. Thinking it was probably a parent that came, realized we were closed and walked away for once instead of becoming a howling gorilla. But then I heard a kid crying. I peeked again and saw no parents. Fearful that it was a kid who was lost, I opened the doors to find there was no one there. I looked down the little hallway we had leading up to baby care, and I could still hear a child cry. I took a step out and walked up the hallway to find that there were hardly any guests left in the park. There were no children and no families around the entrance to baby care. A little creeped, I walked back, and as soon as I got into the entrance of baby care, closing the door behind me, I heard a child cry. I ran throughout baby care's building to see if there was a child anywhere. There wasn't. That's when my coordinator came in, seeing me on all fours looking under the tables like a whack job to see if there was a child hiding there. Pinkley, what are you doing? Oh, it's just you, Julie. I then told them about what happened. They helped me search around the baby care to find nothing. That's when Julie turned to me and Candy and said, maybe you had a run-in with the lady in white. Oh, heck no, don't bring up that story here. What story? Well, it's a story that's been going around in Main Street for a long time, but you aren't the first to hear baby cries in here and not see anything. There's a woman that people have claimed they've seen in a white long Victorian dress. She apparently died around this site way back in the 1900s. She supposedly brings children who are lost over to baby care here. Apparently, since Main Street looks like how it did back in the day, she don't really know she's dead. She loved children, especially since she lost her own baby, so the legend says, and just stays connected to this place. I never seen her, but I heard kids who were lost saying that a nice cast member dressed in a white fancy dress brought them to baby care. And you know, there aren't any cast members dressed like that, especially not on Main Street. Even if there was, character performers can't just leave their post and bring a lost child to us. That's something like a coordinator like me or attendants would do. Pinkley? 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 See, I told you shouldn't bring up that story. You grab the bottom, I got the top. While working at the circus in Disney World, I usually tended to close the Barnstormer coaster. We had to wait for maintenance to come to turn the coaster over in maintenance mode so they could do whatever they needed to fix on it. I became pretty good friends with the one guy, let's call him Al, who fixed up the ride. He worked at Disney for 15 years, or ears as they like to say, at that point, knew the park like the back of his hand. He was laughing with the other maintenance guy about what happened last night. He turned to me and asked point blankly, "Do you believe in ghosts?" Man, do I got a story for you. Well, you see here, I was fixing up the Barnstormer the other day and we got to ride the attraction, you know, do the ride through, make sure the ride is good to go for you guys when you open up the next morning. But there was only 2 of us and we need 2 of us to man the station, so we need a 3rd guy to ride the train for us, you know? So we called over the tech from Dumbo to help us out with closing. He wasn't answering though, so Frank over there took the big walk over to Dumbo, came back with the man, and he loaded in like normal. I wasn't paying much attention to the guy, but I was like to Frank, "Hey, let's in the car." So Frank, sounding all confused, went and said, okay. Frank's new over there, so I just thought he was nervous or something. I don't know, I don't pry. So we send the coaster, I look at the maintenance man from the back. He was waving while going up the hill. Usually that means to stop the ride, something's wrong. So I hit the emergency stop, staring at the back of the maintenance man's head. It was weird, but it looked like an old buddy of mine. We used to work Barnstormer together, but it couldn't be because he passed away about a month ago. He worked here too, about 20 years with the mouse. As I was about to ask Frank to restart the train so we could bring it back to the track, a maintenance man pops up and says, "I'm ready to go do the ride through. Sorry for the wait, you know how Dumbo can be." I sat there puzzled, looking over to Frank asking, "Who we got instead?" Frank looked at me weird like I was losing my marbles and said, "I didn't get anyone." "Then who was that?" I looked back over at the plane to see no one on it. While I was a bit shaken by it, I wasn't completely shaken by it because I seen my fair share of things here in my 15 years working here. Working at circus did not only mean you worked at Barnstormer, you also worked at Dumbo too. I was closing play monitor with my coordinator, let's call her Becky, as I was sweeping and she was closing the curtains on the play area. We heard the music spout back on for the playroom. Becky, not saying anything, walked over to the switch and flipped it back off, came back to put the curtains in its place. Then a minute later, there goes Dumbo circling around again, circus music slowly following. That was creepy enough on its own. What's going on here? She walks back to the controls, turning it off again. It better not happen again. I finished sweeping the joiner, and to clock me out, as we were heading to the office, we hear the music play again as Dumbo began to spin. She runs back in angrily as she peeks behind the curtain. This time I hear her say, "Hey, I knew it was a prank, stop it already, I want to go home." She disappears behind the curtain, but a minute later, she juts out from the curtain looking pale and clearly spooked. Dumbo was still rotating and the music was still going. Don't you have to turn the playroom off? Pinkley, I swear to Holy Mickey that there was a cast member standing by the switch. They were wearing a hat too, but I'm one of the only ones who wear the hat except Krista, but she's over at the Barnstormer waiting for the text to come. When I got closer, there was no one there and I couldn't flip the switch because it's already off. But the Dumbo is still flying. Are you just trying to spook me? She got on radio to call the leads, telling them that she can't turn the Dumbo off. Feeling creeped by being nearly 2 feet away from the door and hearing the music play while seeing Dumbo spinning around in the dark, I bolted with Becky right behind me. On my program at the Emporium, I worked at the most ridiculous hours, especially since we stayed open an hour later than the park itself, then it took forever and a day to clean up afterwards. The one day I was scheduled to work 6 p.m. to 4 a.m. I then worked at 6 a.m. the next day. Can you believe that ish? Holiday hours, am I right? Well, it was mostly my fault. I agreed to help out my favorite coordinator because they were short-staffed for the morning for some reason. He bribed his way with food and gave me all my favorite spots for the assignments, saying as how that money was gonna be good. I agreed, but decided I'd just sleep on the couch in the break room like many others did if they had to come to the same shift. But, of course, when I was gonna do it, no one else was there. But I knew it would be stupid to go home, seeing as how by the time I got there I'd have to turn around and come right back. I didn't care and passed right out on the couch with my alarm on. My alarm went off, but I just wasn't waking up. It was one of those things where you hear your alarm and you know you have to move, but you're still weirdly asleep. Yeah, it's weird. But then a cast member started nudging me. I still remember his face. He was African American with curly short hair. He was wearing the Main Street uniform, no name tag. He was saying, "You have to get up, you have to get up, wake up." So I sat straight up and he was gone. No one else was in the break room except for a custodian who was getting a snack out of the vending machine. Everyone else was starting to work, so they wouldn't be there. There was no way he could just exit the room so quick without me seeing him, or hearing him for that matter. I was in the back on the couch. I would have heard him shuffle away at least. It was odd, but I thought, I'd probably see him by the time I went to the time clock. He wasn't there though. I described him to some of my coworkers and they shook their head no. Sadly, there wasn't many people of color who worked on Main Street, now that I think about it. So all the ones we knew were not him, and I checked the east side too, the other side with the confectionery and whatnot. No one fit that description either. I thought maybe he was a new employee. I asked my coordinator and he said, no new employees at this time. I never saw the kid again, and to this day still don't know what it was. It was really spooky. Was it a ghost? I don't know, but whoever it was, it freaked me out. There's an urban legend that went around for eons about a mechanic who apparently fell to his death while constructing the dark ride for Pirates of the Caribbean. His name was George. They say that the ride will break down if the cast members don't say hello or goodbye to George every morning and night. They even say if they ask George to make the ride break down, he will do it. I've asked multiple Pirates workers and they all said the same thing. They never do that. They heard of the legend, but they never speak to the spirit known as George. This is over here in Walt Disney World though. But I have asked a few of them online where I got the reply that they used to say it as a joke when they heard the urban legend, but it's not true. So sadly, even though it was a lot of fun, it seems like this one is an urban legend with no facts. Haunted Mansion may really be haunted because loved ones' ashes are commonly dropped here. Guys, please don't drop your ashes here. They will be vacuumed up and thrown away. They will not remain there. Speaking of dumping ashes, people dump ashes in many different attractions. Haunted Mansion, Space Mountain, The Little Mermaid, Spaceship Earth, Small World, Peter Pan's Flight, what used to be the Great Movie Ride. Yeah, it's more common than you think too. They even have a code for it when they are cleaning up. That's how common it is. But people have claimed to see a ghost of a little boy at the Haunted Mansion, whether he be crying at the exit of the ride or riding in the Doom buggy. There's this popular picture of him here. The person that took this picture claims they didn't have the flash on and had the camera on night mode where it can only reveal what the eye can't see. Then this boy happened to pop up. As creepy as this photo is, I don't think it's legit. Most likely just a picture of a boy who was peeking his head out of the buggy. However, I had multiple friends that do work the Haunted Mansion. They had their own experiences with this boy, saying that sometimes when they stop the ride at night, a little boy stays on and he disappears when he turns the corner of the ride at the end after you get off. He never shows on the monitors. As for crying, they never heard any crying at the end, but my friend claimed she had heard crying when she was alone cleaning up the stretching rooms. As many know, over in Disneyland, California, there is an apartment above the firehouse. There is also one over at Walt Disney World. However, Walt used to stay at the apartment over in California. In the window, he would light a candle or a light to signify that the big boss was there in the park that day, so everyone should be on their best behavior. Once Walt passed away, they turned the light off for good in that apartment, keeping everything the way it was when Walt was there. They had cleaners go in and clean his room, to which one day a cleaner went in and saw the light had been turned on. She turned it off and left. When she was outside, she had saw the light had been turned back on. So she went all the way back up again, going as far to unplug the light. But when she turned around, the light was back on, without the light being plugged in, and she heard a man's voice that said, "I'm still here." Now, obviously, I don't know if this is a legend or not, but I do know that that was the reason they kept the light on in the rooms in both of the parks. Whenever you go to the parks, look at the firehouse at the apartment above. There will always be a light on to show that Walt Disney is always here. Others have also proclaimed they have seen Walt around the parks, especially those who watch the cameras at night. Many of the higher-ups who have access to places where Walt might have been say they have their own experiences as well with him. While I never had a Walt experience or know anyone personally who does, I do think that the story can be true, but like I said, it's not proven to be a fact. But I mean, hey, it was Walt's place, and he did want to see how it would develop, so if I died, I'd probably want to go back too. But like I said, there's nothing supporting that. Just beliefs. Another urban legend of a man who dresses in 70s apparel that likes to chill at Space Mountain and ride the rides, then disappear. There isn't really any background story to him, just some cast members apparently seen him and the story was charaded around since. While talking to my Space Mountain buds, they said they never had any interaction with a ghost that they called Mr. One Way, although they knew the legend. They said that the most that happened though was that they would see someone try to stand up on the ride on their camera. After they prompted the guy to sit down, they realized there would be no one in that seat even though they saw a figure there trying to stand up. It happened to a few cast members, but that's about all. So at least over in Walt Disney World, Mr. One Way seems to just be Mr. I want to be decapitated. But yeah, I'm sorry. Now, as I was making this video, two of my friends had reached out to me to tell me a personal story of theirs about something perhaps supernatural happening to them at the park, so let's get into that. My one friend, let's call him Ty, worked custodial over in Hollywood Studios, but before he was custodial, he did a program as an attractions worker at Tower of Terror, so he knew the ins and outs of it. He was walking out from Tower to go behind Fantasmic, which is where he would go for his break. He was looking up at Tower to find a figure standing in one of the above windows, but that was impossible because no one would be up there at that point of time during ride operation. As he spied the figure shifted, then began the wait. What was even crazier was that then he disappeared from the window in front of his eyes. My other friend, let's call her Tessa, worked at Haunted Mansion. Of course, she has her tales about the ashes of loved ones being left behind, but this one time she was leading a group of guests into the stretch rooms. Everything was going as normal, the doors opened up, and she ushered the people out for the next group. She noticed a small boy standing in the middle of the room, staring up from her guests, probably trying to see the scene of the hanged man from above and how that all worked. She was ready to tell him in her Haunted Mansion spiel to move his body to the next room. But as she went to speak, the boy wasn't there. She was so shocked she ran to peek in the next room to not find the boy anywhere, which was impossible because the whole thing happened in a matter of seconds. And now, as a special little extra, here is Chummy Bee with his story.
I don't have one.
Well, I have an extra story for you guys. Why do I even have a husband?
'Cause you love me!
Disgusting! So this isn't even like a ghost story, but you know, the talking Mickey that you can meet over on Main Street in front of the park? Well, he communicates from a wireless sensor that's pretty far away. I believe it's in Hollywood Studios, but I could be wrong about that. Well, regardless of all that tech mumbo jumbo, I was walking out of work through the magical Disney tunnels, where in the front of the tunnel they had the costumes for the characters. The talking Mickey heads were hung up neatly, and since the radio signals sometimes come through the tunnel and it will trigger the Mickey heads to start talking, so I was walking out at 3 a.m. to this. I swear, if Disney made a horror movie using the parks, that would get them some serious bank. I'm telling you, Disney, we all know how you love money! Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my ghost stories from the happiest place on earth. If you'd like to hear more stories, please drop a like down below. Have any of your own experiences? I would love to hear those in the comments. And I shall see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!